When you're lost in the darkness, look for the ClickerCast. Welcome back, everyone, to our very special limited run series here at GamerGuild TV, where we'll be breaking down each and every episode of HBO's The Last of Us, from its plot to its characters, video game comparisons, and every small-sized detail in between. Every Wednesday we go live, so do get your comments down below in the description. And Richie, don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that notification bell. Don't know why I'm telling you in particular to do that. Do you do it every week?
Yeah, I always do it.
That's a good.
Yeah,
good to
most
know.
weeks I think.
Most weeks, you got to get in there. Of course, don't forget the reason you do that is so you're kept in the loop with all our great content, like our weekly gaming podcast, the GamerGuild Podcast, where we get together and round up all the video gaming news, not just talking about the gaming-related shows. And if you want more Last of Us content, Part 1 and Part 2, full playthroughs on PS5 are up on the channel right now for you to go check out. Your hosts for this week are myself, as always, at Arcane Road, Chris, and the brick to my bottle, your co-host, who's already been talking, man of many pixels, Mr. Richie. Welcome back to episode 3.
Episode 3.
Slightly delayed due to personal circumstances. We are a week behind, so we've got a double bill today. So anyone listening along on podcast services after the fact, or who watches us live with us on YouTube every Wednesday, thank you for your patience as we dive into episode 3. Episode titled The Path, directed by Peter Hoare. H-O-A-R, formerly known for probably The Umbrella Academy is the most recent thing that he's done over on Netflix, if you've seen that. Written as always by Neil Druckmann, Haley Wegner-Gross and Craig Mazin, and music by the wonderful Gustavo Santaolalla once again. The plot summary for this episode, ladies and gentlemen, is we join the residents of Jackson in how they are dealing with the aftermath of the battle and the losses they face. Meanwhile, Ellie recovers in hospital, which I think actually for us kind of breaking this episode down, Richie, it's almost probably been beneficial having that additional week to let it soak in.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I actually wrote that plot summary over a week ago. I was like, yeah, that's pretty much the episode.
It's, of course, we had that crazy episode number 2 with the big fight at Jackson and that ultimate untimely ending for everyone's favourite bearded rascal, Pedro Pascal. And here we are to break it down. So, Richie, before we get into the plot details, as always, we like to start each episode with looking at just kind of our overall impressions of the episode, how we felt in the wake of the battle, and where we find all of our characters the following day, essentially.
Yeah, well, the episode kind of spans from the immediate aftermath the following day all the way to 3 months later.
Mm-hmm.
And it's definitely the slowest, probably one of the slowest episodes of The Last of Us TV show, full stop.
Mm-hmm.
But in hindsight, I almost feel like it's necessary after the very action-packed episode 2 and to reset things up going into episode 3. This is kind of almost like the true episode 1 of season 2.
Yeah, it's
episode 1 and 2 are more prologue.
Yeah, I think we kind of allude to that in that Joel's death was essentially the full end of the first story that was told, which is Joel and Ellie's adventure. Yeah. And then now that's kind of spawned this story where, we pick up almost like an episode 1 of a new season. We touch ground with all of the characters who remain. We find out their kind of thought processes, their reasons, their focuses for the weeks and months ahead. And then we kind of just get to spend a little bit of time with them and seeing where they're at, both emotionally and physically. And it kind of gives us a good kind of straight arrow shot of what the remainder of the season might look like. But let's get into it all. Do let us know in the comments below, by the way, what your overall impressions are. We'd love to hear from our audience regarding it. But yeah, let's start off with, as you alluded to, we're pretty much in the aftermath of last week. We know Joel's body was returned to Jackson, and everybody is seemingly mourning the death of not just Joel, but many, many lost in the battle. One thing that did surprise me initially was that it just ended. Is every infected in however many, do they just stop? Do they give up? Does Mushroom Command just say, you know what, we've lost too many trying to take down this human base, hold off for now? Or surely they're relentless, so there'd be more flocking in from miles around.
Maybe that was just all the ones in the region. Maybe they don't, every single one doesn't connect to every other one in the world. It almost might be little colonies.
Just that network around.
Yeah, that Jackson. Network, that specific network attacked.
Yeah.
And was defeated.
Yeah, I think I was expecting them maybe to be still picking off a couple of stragglers. You know, like whoever's up on the top of the wall is like, oh, he's someone who's, there's one infected who's a little bit late to the party. Like, oh, we still going, guys? We still going, guys? Headshot down. It's like, oh.
I bet you they've had conversations about that, but probably felt it would be superfluous.
Yeah, it doesn't really add anything more. But in my mind, I'm like, now they know where Jackson is. You'd imagine it's going to be more of a like just constant threat rather than seemingly like they've not had any issues for years at this stage.
They're not. I don't think they're infected intelligent in that kind of way. It's very much hive mind. It found a source of food. It attacked it. It's done.
Yeah, like more reactive.
I think it's not. It's not like going, Jim, over there's a town. Get a posse together. We'll go attack it.
Let's get some more troops together after the first wave failed. Yeah, quite possibly. But we start off with we see Tommy. He's seemingly in like a makeshift morgue that's made within Jackson, and the lady leaves and hands over the kind of like the washcloth, and he checks under the cloth himself, and we know it's Joel from whoever is watching. Obviously, the context of it all, and in a really, I guess, heartwarming way, he wants to do it himself. Again, I don't know who these people are who can bring themselves to do this kind of thing, but we see him tend to, I guess, Joel's wounds, because you got to imagine that body's in a pretty beat up shape to see. Like, to find out that your brother's dead to start with, that's got to hurt. Then to find out he was murdered, got to hurt even more. But then to see the aftermath of a beating like that, and then after
to find out he was basically tortured before he was murdered,
and get him into some kind of, I guess, peaceful looking place to go through with his funeral and stuff, it's got to be quite traumatizing for Tommy. He's going to have that kind of etched in his brain, which we know Ellie does from the game, has kind of a lot of flashbacks to that moment, but you've got to imagine something like that sticks with you for a long time. And he tends the wounds. I think one of the most touching things he says is just he just whispers to his brother, almost like, give my love to Sarah, which I thought was quite a poignant, just like, you don't really need to say anything more there, you don't need to have a long dialogue with him, between him and Joel in his mind's eye. It just kind of like, I think that line summarizes everything that needs to be said in that moment.
That's it. That's all that needs to be said. Like,
yeah, and it again, out of all the darkness that you kind of see there, it's that little bit of hope of like, at least he's with his daughter now, and finds that, I guess, peace, even though all the horrible things that have just happened in the last 24 hours.
It's giving the character a send off, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. We then cut straight away over to Ellie. She awakens in hospital, which initially I was surprised. I was like, they have hospitals, like seemingly very functioning hospitals with drugs, with the ability to sedate people and full-on machinery and seemingly trained doctors, which I knew Jackson was well equipped, but I actually thought for a brief moment this was a flashback.
Yeah, it's more equipped than I would have thought. I never actually picked up on that, to be perfectly honest, but yeah, you're right. It's like, that was a very well-equipped hospital.
Mm-hmm. And she wakes up. She lets out an anguished scream as, I guess, she flashes back to Joel's murder, which does happen in the game quite a lot. There's a couple of instances where Ellie is clearly suffering from PTSD after the traumatic events of what she witnessed with Joel while her face was kind of held down to the floor. And doctors run in, people grab her, try and calm her down, but in Bella Ramsey's performance there, you can really just see like the pain, I think, of obviously she's been unconscious for probably who knows how long, and then to wake up and then I guess keep seeing that moment, and then they give her the good old drugs, which again, don't know where they're getting these drugs from, but she gets sedated and knocked back out unconscious. But it's interesting, and I think actually we see Ellie in probably a most fragile state now, because she's got presumably something in her lung to help her breathe, like a tube. Because we know when she got kicked by Manny in the last episode at the end, her breathing, it looked like, we were saying, I think she had like a broken rib or a punctured lung or something. Yeah. And that's something you're definitely not just getting up and walking away from anytime soon. Even if you do wrap a bandage around your wrist like you would in the game. It doesn't heal you instantly.
Well, that's a bit of a departure from the game, because in the game, she pretty much the next day up and ready to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I think it's an interesting thing, because she's just spent 3 months in hospital.
It's a long recovery
just
time.
Dwelling on it in bed, can't do anything.
Yeah, and when seemingly with little output, because we find out later on that Dina's withheld information from her, so it never really gets to it. We then cut to 3 months later, so we don't spend that too much of time in hospital with Ellie. Town's being rebuilt. You can see them kind of going through. Everyone's kind of got their jobs again, doing repairs. And as we know, Ellie's not been allowed to leave the hospital. Because as you rightly said, in the game, she kind of immediately starts hatching a plan, speaks to Tommy in the game, right? How are we going to go after this Abigail? And at this moment, you're right, it's a quarter of a year has passed, and you would imagine the rest of the town has almost like began to move on a little bit with the times.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ellie's now physically healed, but she needs. I do like in the hospital how she has to meet one more person, and it's Gail, which is like you can almost like tell she's. Again, credit to them. They run this hospital like a genuine modern day hospital, like you would have got before the infection spread out, where they have like not just medical but like psychological staff come in and go like, look, part of my job is to make sure you are mentally capable of leaving this place.
Doubly so for someone like Ellie as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's probably one of them residents of Jackson's where they keep a close eye on the mental state of.
Knowing the background. And I think now with the events of Joel, Ellie it's just the ultimate almost like teenager attitude, isn't it? She thinks she's being so smart with Gail in the way she talks and says like, oh, I know I'm supposed to feel something. Yeah, he meant a lot to me. Let's move on. And she kind of like, she knows she's saying the words Gail needs to hear, but Gail just sees straight through it. She's like, you are such a bullshitter. Yeah, no one's as good as you, Ellie? And she's like, fine, I'll let you. Because I think it's almost like not a defeated parent, but a parent who knows if I drag this out, if I keep her in any longer, it's just going to make things worse. It's better off to just let her think she's got away with it, let her think she's the smart one, almost empower Ellie in a way so she doesn't do anything too stupid too soon. And I think this is where...
It's almost like both parties are sat there like going, neither is believe a single word the other's saying. Yeah. So let's just do this thing and let's just move on from it.
Yeah, let's do the quick to me to you and we'll both go our separate ways. Because you're clearly too smart for me. And it just shows like a Gail's experience. I think she says in the previous episode, she's like got 40 years psychotherapy experience. So it's like, Ellie being a smart ass teenager ain't gonna outwit Gail anytime soon. But then so she gets passed out from hospital. We then know pretty much she lies about everything as well with the Gail conversation. I think it's definitely a way of her protecting herself, but it's only human instinct, right? You kind of deflect and say, yeah, it's fine. Like she doesn't know what Joel's told her. What I did think in that moment, I don't know about you, is Gail telling Ellie about what Joel said to her. Is that not patient confidentiality, or is it now he's dead, or is this because it's in Jackson and there's no official compliance manager checking in on Gail?
Probably all of the above. I think it's probably one of them things where with Joel being dead, there's no real harm from Gail using that information when she's conversing with Ellie.
Mm-hmm.
She probably wouldn't tell anyone else what Joel said, but with Ellie, it's like a case of maybe this information can help Ellie.
Yeah.
Can't help Joel anymore. He's gone.
Yeah.
Gone.
It's part of me thinks this might be Gail almost breaking her own rules a little bit, because I feel like due to the stuff with Eugene, and we know from the first episode when Joel had his session with Gail, there's clearly something there, and Gail openly admitted like she hates him. So I feel like there's almost like now he's gone, this could be her opportunity to really find out what it was. So she's almost like a bit of self-serving going on from Gail's part, I think, at the same time. Not with like bad intentions, but just all things said and done. She's an alcoholic, her husband's dead, Joel's now dead. There's clearly something that I'd imagine as a therapist, it must be really frustrating not getting to the root of the problem before your client essentially, like she's not speaking to Joel ever again. So that must be eating away at her mind of like, what was it? What is it? And Ellie's in front of her right now in a therapy session.
Like, it's Gail clearly is like, she's so confused by the fact that Joel claims that he saved Ellie and that's the reason for the conflict. It's like, but how does saving her breed this situation? It doesn't make sense. There's clearly information. Yeah. Gail knows there's information out there. There has to be text that fits in perfect. She might even be thinking about Eugene. It might just be one of them professional curiosity things where going, I didn't get to the bottom of that. Ellie's my only way to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, interesting. I don't think we've seen the last of Gail. And this again is a new character created for the show. I do enjoy her little moments sprinkled in with our characters that we do know so well. Ellie kind of lets in on that conversation as well, that she discusses, she had a last moment about ignoring him on the porch, but we know that's unlikely to be true from her bedroom or a flat apartment, garage room, whatever it is.
I stand by. Just look, even in the show alone, the guitar is back in her room, restrung. When we next see her, so the last time we saw that was with Joel when Ellie walked past her. Then it was the next day he died.
Yeah, so
there's more to that conversation than
absolutely
we've seen,
and we'll no doubt get to that in future episodes. Ellie returns to Joel's house. She kind of goes through the horrible moment I'd imagine everybody does when they lose a loved one, which is kind of, I guess, going through their life, but they're not there, like the absent space just left by like just their clothes, their duvet, their photo frames, and especially because Joel like lived alone. Well, presumably Ellie lived with him. We see Ellie's old bedroom when she's going around, but just that like sense of silence. But then they're belonging, like everything about them still exists, but they're not there. They're not with us. I think that's a very like odd emotion thing, especially for a 19-year-old to go through with a father figure. So yeah, we see her go around. She works her way through some of the rooms. We kind of learn a bit more about Joel here. We know he's got like woodwork. We know he's got his guitar collection. We know he's quite in touch with nature, with a lot of the imagery around the house of like just horses. And again, he was just a very countryside, rural kind of guy, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Very hands-on. Ellie then kind of walks around after seeing all these kind of tributes and stuff. She finds the box on a bed, which is seemingly just like, I guess, probably from the morgue building, right? They just kind of like take some of his last defects that he had on him, which it was the watch she was gifted from Sarah, his gun, and then seemingly a towel of some sort. It might have just been like a pocket rag or something like that, clean the gun with or something. But yeah, Ellie seems to just like dismiss the watch, but immediately laser focused on the revolver. Which I guess is about right. The watch is associated with Sarah, and then
that's how I took it. With the watch is so much associated with Sarah because it was damaged. Sarah fixed it, then it got damaged again the day Sarah died, and Joel's wore it as a basically memento ever since. Where Ellie, her relationship with Joel, basically was fostered in violence, so she probably associates like that revolver with getting to know Joel and everything they've went through.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a good counterbalance to kind of what we know from the episodes, but then just kind of visualize it and like, yeah, there's the two sides of Joel that we know: the father, the loved one, the parent who looked after his daughter, and subsequently other daughters, and then yeah, you're right, the absolute insane violence that he was also capable of at the same time, which ultimately led to the events we're at now. Ellie continues kind of walk around the house, and I think we get another fantastic example of Bella Ramsey's terrific acting at this point, where she sees one of his jackets kind of just hung up, and again, back to the point I was making before about everything about this person exists, and she kind of sees his jacket and she just kind of embraces it, hung up in the cupboard, gives it a really good smell, I guess, and just that like this scent of it, because again, you'll have it yourself with like your loved ones, but like whatever aftershave they wear, their deodorant, just their own natural smell, it's distinct to each individual.
Whatever's lingering on their jacket.
Yeah, and we all know like your like olfactory senses of like smell, it conjures things. That's why you walk down the high street and you get a sniff of a bakery or something, it's like, oh, all of a sudden you want bread or something. It's like, it's a very distinct thing, the smell with your nose, and I think it's very dig deep into nostalgia as well. It smells a weird one. You kind of just take it for granted in your everyday life, but if you get something that you had maybe only as a child, like your grandma's cooking or something like that, it would foster such emotion out of it. And we see that. It's
amazing how much smell is linked to your memories, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's because you don't notice it every day. It's like your vision, one thing, your sight and your sounds and your relationships you have that way, but yeah, there's something ultimately like raw about smell, which goes right back to just like survival instincts and just a core human function, because it's, I guess, detached from us in a way. But in that moment, you see like Bella Ramsey, like just as she's like, you can see all the waves of emotion washing over, and as she sheds a tear, in absolute silence, just there in the room, kind of the memories I'd imagine that come with it too.
I think this is the first moment where she breaks, where she's being emotionally. I don't want to use the word emotionally strong, because I feel like not facing your emotions isn't being strong.
Yeah.
But it's like she's been holding everything back, holding everything in. And this is the moment that just where she just can't hold back anymore.
Yeah. There's always going to be moments of that just break you. When you least expect it, no doubt. And seemingly a jacket hung up in a wardrobe is one of them here. She doesn't get to linger in that kind of quiet upset for long, though, because she hears Dina downstairs and you can almost see the immediate, like, oh, shit, like, hide. And we all know you can't hide tears that quickly. You can wipe them away, but your eyes stay bloodshot for about 15 or so minutes afterwards. So, yeah, Dina arrives. She says she's coming downstairs. She arrives with cookies. Ellie kind of wipes away her tears, seemingly, again, just wanting to appear, come across as brave, as lots of people do in the face of loss. But yeah, Dina kind of brings cookies round, tells her that they're an apology, and we kind of see, this is where we learn that Dina's been keeping some secrets from Ellie. And it kind of makes sense. She explains that she did want to tell her, but in the moment the doctor said you can't stress. And I think Dina points out, like, you got to crawl off the bed, pull the tubes out to try and do something, and that was not the best scenario.
I don't think the doctors are even aware at all that Dina has this information, because no one knows. Dina just didn't tell anyone. I think this is very much a calculated decision by Dina to go, if I tell Ellie, she's going to get out of bed, she's going to rip their tubes out, she'll be dead by the time she gets out the walls of Jackson. We can't rush.
Yeah.
We can't do anything till Ellie's fit. So she's made the conscious choice to hold on the information till Ellie's fit and ready to go.
Absolutely. And we learn from Dina saying that she knows most of their names, she knows where they're from, and she even knows what the WLF, Washington Liberation Front, or Wolf patch was that they were wearing. And we kind of remember this during the episode, just before they're about, I guess, when they first arrive up at the ski lodge. You see her asking, like, oh, what's that badge for? And she kind of glances around. They all introduce herself. I cannot believe she remembered any of it, because I would imagine once you got drugged, your memory of that day must be so hazy. But again, it's a TV show, so she did remember it all. And then this obviously allows Ellie and Dina, because Dina's clearly the logistical planner of this duo, to kind of plan it all out. And she's like, yeah, we'll need to bring it up with the council. We do need to go through Maria. We need to approval to get a posse together, essentially, to go and hunt these people down. And yeah, you can almost see the moment Ellie says, like, Abby's name. Ellie's like, Abby. She like whispers it back to her, like, that's her focus point.
That's the bitch.
That's the one she's after. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, they say, like, they need to bring the idea to Tommy, and they need to go through everything. Which, again, I guess, Richie, is very different from the way the game pans out, because as we alluded to, it's very much the next day. Tommy agrees right from the start with Ellie that they need to go. And Tommy actually does a bit of a red herring, doesn't he? He's the one who tells Ellie, we need to bring it up with Maria, we need to speak to the town, and we'll get together in the morning and we'll head out. And then Tommy goes and just heads out in the middle of the night anyway. Ellie wakes up, Maria's like, you're not allowed to go. To which Ellie and Dina both like kind of push back, and Maria's like, anything I say is not going to stop you, is it? And Ellie and Dina are like, no, we're going after. So in the game, Tommy heads out first, naturally wants to avenge his brother. And then the girls kind of follow suit, I guess, a day behind, give or take. Whereas in the show, Tommy's like, no, they're part of the council. They need to make a decision.
Maria let Ellie and Dina go to get Tommy back, to bring Tommy back. That's why she lets him go.
Bring back my dumbass husband or something, she says in the game, I think is the quote. So very kind of different pivot of initial events between the show and the game at this stage. We then cut away to a new group who we've not seen in the show yet, which will come to be known as the Seraphites. These are kind of group of people who are very much in touch with nature, it seems. They're all shaved heads. They've got their cheeks scarred, which is a look that you'll see throughout the rest of the series now. And they communicate, especially in combat situations, by whistling. Which is terrifying in the game, isn't it, Richie? When you come across these people, it's weird. In most Last of Us games, Naughty Dog always get praised for the secondary characters are always interacting, of like calling each other's names out. If you kill one of them,
oh no, they got Dave.
Yeah, exactly. Especially in the sequel, and it really adds that element of immersion. But when it comes to the Seraphites, they communicate between themselves, but you have no clue what they're saying, because it's just high pitched whistles. And when you're in the middle of like a thick forest environment and there's 3, 4, 5 of them and they can all communicate and there's just one of you, it adds for some very tense moments. So, but seemingly the way they wanted to paint the Seraphites in the show, again, from a game's point of view, you see everything from the perspective of Ellie or Abby or Joel. The show's having the really benefit, I think I'm really enjoying, is getting to see like just other interpretations of people and groups, like other angles. And
not coloured by the agenda of whatever character you're currently playing as.
Exactly. You can make your own assumption, and we kind of just see the group. It's a young girl talking to her father. They're seemingly en route to another location. The dad explains that it's the safest thing they can do for them now is distance. They know they're getting away from wolves they talk about. The little girl mentions, will the prophet not protect us? The dad gives the explanation that whoever this prophet is been dead for 10 years. And she's not necessarily a godlike figure, so as most prophets through religious history. And the little girl kind of alludes to wanting a hammer to like feel safe. The dad gives it. It's quite a sweet moment actually, even though the rogue people, and we know from the game they're seemingly painted as the bad guys, the Scars. This is very much that typical Last of Us thing of like just showing that they're just humans. They're just looking for safety. They're trying to get away from the wolves who are seemingly killing them left, right, and center. And they've got children.
I don't quite know what the symbolism of the hammer is. I didn't, because when we've played through the game, they never picked up on the fact that like the Seraphites being so associated with hammers. But it feels like that was a very symbolic moment.
Yeah, I interpreted it as just like she's a little girl and she sees her dad's like, you use these her dad and the other people in the group use the weapons for protection. Because remember the Seraphites, they don't use technology. That's like their big thing. Part of the prophet's teaching is it's everything natural. So they use bow and arrows. They use I guess like axes and hammers and stuff like that. And I think maybe as the child, she sees it more as a protective piece, and he gives it to her to just like kind of appease her while they're on this journey.
Yeah,
seemingly well away from Seattle. They make out like this group is leaving. Like they are Seraphites, but they are not hanging around Seattle. They are on a mission elsewhere for safety.
Which is interesting because they are literally miles away from Seattle. And actually, after watching the subsequent episode, the Seraphite in that episode has a very different view on the prophet.
Yeah,
but we'll save that for the next episode. But so it's interesting. Yeah. I think it's one of them where on rewatch you might pick up a lot more interesting things in the show.
Yeah, we see there's a big sharp whistle to communicate, which alerts the whole convoy, and they'll kind of like flee and flock into the bushes. So something's clearly awry at this moment in time. But then we cut back to Ellie training with Jesse again. Clearly, she's on some kind of recovery plan with Jesse in the Jesse gym in the barn. Jesse says he's impressed, but she's not quite the level she would have been at before. But this is where Ellie uses an opportunity almost like to, I guess, stack the council in her favour for what's coming. She's already had a conversation with Tommy, which, you know, Tommy's going to be on his side, but it's kind of like, it's nice to see Jesse's been promoted already. I'm guessing a lot of the council may be killed in the battle, so there's vacancies all of a sudden.
Yeah, I think I took it as maybe Jesse's took probably Joel's spot in the council. Because we know if Joel was the foreman, so I'm guessing he's had a spot in the council. Now that's opened up. Maybe Jesse's just the next in line to take his slot.
Yeah. One of the things you kind of don't think about the battle is everyone who's lost is how much like expertise was just lost. You know, like when Joel was just talking about like the electrics and the mechanisms, and he's kind of him and Tommy like the foreman of the whole place. Joel going out probably has like way wider impact, doesn't it, on this community than you really take for granted at first. Like he was much loved, but just his knowledge of the like pre-apocalypse and building and construction and electrics and
when Ellie goes back to the house outside, it's just full of like flowers and stuff. Like people have been obviously clearly going there to say their regards to Joel and leave flowers as a memorial.
And it's interesting. I think we get a point here as well where Jesse kind of gives Ellie the best advice he can do, which is saying like, if you're going to come to the council, just don't be angry, write everything down. Ellie again immediately takes it as a teenager. Oh, he's trying to insult me. And he's like, no, it's just because you're angry and people won't respond to angry. And I think that's the best advice he could have gave her at that moment in time. He didn't say which way he was going to vote. He's very, again, I think Dina jokes and later on calls him Captain Wyoming. And it's like, he's got such strong morals, a bit like Captain America, of like, he just won't waver. And even though he knows the right decision should be to side with Ellie, he's just so neutral in this already.
what he's done is he's give Ellie the best chance to succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if she goes in there guns and blazing, everyone's just going to go, she just wants revenge. If
she goes in and is getting angry and overly passionate and all out for revenge, everyone's just going to dismiss her as, oh yeah, she's poor Ellie. She's lost her father figure. Then they're going to vote against her. They're just going to pity her rather than believe in what she's trying to do.
Yeah. And then, then we actually cut to the council the next day, and it's, again, Jackson community, very, very organized. And we know this because Maria, correct me if I'm wrong, was some kind of senator or state, like her job in the pre-apocalypse was involved with politics.
She was a prosecutor, I think.
Yeah, something to do with law, wasn't it? And I'd imagine a lot of that echoes into the way Jackson's ran the council. And it makes sense. It's that kind of democracy that they're trying to recreate or hold on to in this destroyed, crazy world that they find themselves in.
It's communism.
Yeah,
it's communism on a small scale. A single community who's the good of the community is paramount.
Mm-hmm.
The leaders are elected from members of the community.
And we get a little bit of comedy here for the first time in the episode, I think, where there's the guy talking about corn, I think, food supplies, and he goes on, he's like, all the benefits of corn, and we can grow it can do this, it's hard wearing, the yield's really good, and you can almost like sense everybody else in the room is like, it's this guy again. We all know people like this in our professional life, in our personal lives, who just like, they just get hung up on the wrong things, and you're like, dude, read the room, come on. In the real world, this guy clearly just worked in like an office block or something and had like but loved staplers or something like that. You know what I mean? The most mundane of things, but he knows a lot about corn.
He's the guy who was given the task to find a new pen for the company and spent 6 weeks on it.
Yeah, where it tests every single one out, the benefits, the pros, the cons, everything. But he gets cut short by Maria. Let's talk about what we're here to talk about. One woman points out that she stands on a chair and says like, everyone loved Joel, but he wasn't pardon me, the only one to die that day. And I think the posse of, I don't know why they picked 16 people to go out.
I don't know,
but she's like, that's too risky, and who's going to protect us from raiders or if the wall's attacked again? And she's totally right in what she's saying. I think that's the interesting thing, is once it's opened up to the community, as you said, back to the communism element, you got to think bigger picture on this. And can you really sacrifice that at this moment in time when they're still recovering themselves?
And bear in mind, other than Ellie and maybe Tommy and Maria, no one knows why Joel was attacked. And it's doubtful even Maria or Tommy might know. So they probably just think this was just a freak band of raiders that stumbled onto him as they were looking for supplies or whatever.
I presume Tommy definitely knows, because Tommy knows about Ellie as well. So
Tommy
he's
knows,
kind of in that loop.
But Maria's a question mark. Does Maria know about Ellie? Does Maria, or about the hospital?
Yeah.
It's not so much in knowing about Ellie's immunity, it's knowing about what went down at the hospital, the reason why Joel was killed. Because if you know that, then you know this was a very targeted attack.
Yeah.
They were there to take out Joel, then they've left.
Yeah, it would be
But if you're just a normal citizen of Jackson, why did they attack Joel? He was out on patrol, or maybe they took him out because he was out on patrol, so that to hide the tracks.
Yeah, you got to imagine people
are they targeting Jackson?
Yeah, and this is, I guess, it'd be interesting. Like, we never see it in the show, but to go back to, do the community think this small group of raiders set off the attack of the infected? Like, are they to blame? Like, in a way, Abby did wake them up in a small group of them at the same time as the sparkler triggered the mycelial network for the actual community. But I think as an audience member watching this, the one thing when that woman stood on the chair and was like, I love Joel as well, but we lost a lot of people and sent out 16 isn't the right moment. In my head, I'm just like, yeah, but he was murdered. The rest of them were killed by infected. Joel was killed by human beings who had a clear objective or like intent to do something. I think that's the key difference that she wasn't getting in that moment. And this leads me to think, like, does she know the extent of how he was killed, or where? Like, how much have they told the community, and how much is it just like Joel died?
But I mean, I don't think this was her point. But if you wanted to side with that, come up with like a logical argument, you could go, okay, this was a foraging party from a group of raiders that took out Joel because he was a scout.
Yep.
They left Dina alive to report back what happened so that we would send people out to pursue them while the rest of them attacked Jackson.
Yeah.
To leave Jackson vulnerable.
Yeah. There's...
You can make that. That's a reasonable argument with the information she has. It's not the one she makes. I think she just...
Yep.
I think she's just scared, to be honest.
Yeah, and again, everything she says is totally right. But it's interesting thinking from if we all lived in Jackson and we were in that situation, you would think like, if they've killed Joe but left the others, then what's to say there's not a bigger group out there observing us, watching us, waiting for our big move? Like, imagine what their patrols look like for the next couple of months, years, as they kind of like come to the reality of like, we might not be alone out here as we first thought. So, and remember when Joel and Ellie got first picked up by them, they had a strict check. If you remember, they had dogs sniffing them down. They had guns trained on them right from the get-go as soon as they found them out in the snow. So
they were leaving corpses near the river to scare people off.
Yeah, so they've done a lot in the past. But yeah, we cut to another man. He suggests show them mercy. I think he says he's not a Christian, but this is why Jackson's better than the raiders out there. Is like we have the capacity for mercy, which absolutely triggers Seth, who's Mr. Big himself. Of all the people in the room, this was a really good addition of the show because Seth has a very small role in the game. He basically just calls Ellie slanderous terms, and then you see him give her a sandwich the next morning. That's about it. But yeah, we see him stand up and basically puts a defensive stance on and says like, we need to go after these people. They came into our home, they killed one of our own, like we're the victims in this, and it's like we shouldn't be showing them mercy because they don't deserve it. We need to show them revenge. And you can't help but think like, fuck yeah, Seth. Like, he does a really good rallying speech of like, know what, stop doing all this council shit, let's do what needs to be done.
He gives a very, very passionate speech about sending people out to go murder other people. It's kind of what Jesse advised Ellie not to do.
Yeah, he kind of does what Ellie is thinking in her head.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. And then we eventually get to Ellie speaking.
Yeah.
She's got a letter. She's wrote it all out. It's interesting.
I was going to say, I think the reason Ellie pulls out a letter, she pulls out the letter when she's looking around the room while Steph's talking. I think she's judging the reaction to people.
Yeah.
I don't think people are taking to what Steph's saying or the way he's saying it. I think that's where she decides to go with the letter.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a secondary backup, perhaps.
Yeah.
It is interesting in the official podcast. I don't know if you listen to this show's episode. Is they kind of talk about asking Bella Ramsey to act this bit because she's playing Ellie, but she's playing Ellie not being true to Ellie. It's Ellie writing stuff down that she doesn't really feel, but she knows the words she needs to say. So it's almost like a 3-layer emotional version of acting that Bella Ramsey has to do in this moment. But yeah, after Seth's outburst, she takes Jesse's advice. She reads the letter and she refers to. She kind of tries to appease everyone. I think she talks about community. She refers to the people as strangers. She talks about kind of. It's not about her. It's about the community and getting justice for people. That's what Jackson stands for, justice. And you can kind of see what she's getting at. She's like, right, she's trying to give like this bigger reason as to why they need to go to prove a point and everything Jackson stands for. Whereas we all know she just wants that sweet, sweet revenge for Joel.
She wants revenge, yeah.
Which in its way is justice being served. But when you
I don't know, there's a difference between revenge and justice. Well, they might have the same outcome, but it's the intent behind them.
Yeah. And that's when it gets back to like who decides who's judge, jury, and executioner in these situations. And clearly Joel in the past, everything where he has been judge, jury, and executioner has led him to that point. And that's the cycle of the story we talk about. I did think it was funny that Gail kind of like snuck in. They made a point of showing Gail sneak in at the top of the balcony, and you can almost see she's like, oh, she's so full of shit. As she's doing this big impassioned speech, you can see Gail's just like, oh, you're trying to play the crowd again, like she was Gail earlier on the episode, and it's like she just shakes her head. She's like, yeah, not impressed. The council votes, and surprisingly enough, it's an absolute washout, and it's 3 for 8 against going after Joel. Presumably, Tommy, Jesse, and Maria were the three on the council. Like we don't find out, but
we have no idea. To be honest, we have no information about any of the others. Mm-hmm. So they're the only three we have any idea who might vote for. I think Tommy's a shoo-in.
Yeah. I mean, even Maria might vote against it just to keep Tommy home.
Yeah.
Like, she could have ulterior motives of like, yeah, if I vote yes, my husband's gone and could potentially be killed. The father of my child. So, yeah, it'll be interesting if later in the series we kind of find out, like, that could be a problem if Ellie gets back and finds out that Jesse didn't support him or Maria didn't support it. But I think it's maybe...
Ellie would be surprised if Maria didn't. I think she'd be more hurt if Jesse didn't than Maria.
Yeah. So, everyone floods out. Community council meeting over, adjourned, and I guess everyone just cracks on with their life. Like it's an interesting way. Like, does Ellie have another chance to raise the subject again? You know, like we have in the UK with Scottish independence. Like, do they get to come back to it in 6 months' time and say, "Can we go after Joel's killers now?" It's been a year. It's been 2 years. Like, at what point?
How many times has Corn Dude stood up?
Oh God, he must have like a monthly slot at these meetings. Yeah. It's like, well, actually, the corn yield.
See, I think this is why it's actually important, though, that it wasn't a close run thing. Because if it's a close run thing, a different day, a different speech, it might go the other way. Yeah. I think it's important that it was very much clear. We've had you out. We're not going with this. Yeah. So it's unlikely to ever get brought back up.
Yeah. We then pivot away. We see Gail watching Little League Baseball. Jackson has a baseball league, I guess, for kids. Nice to see. She sat there cracking open a cold one. They also have beer in Jackson. Again, very impressed. Hospitals, beer, baseball leagues. It's very much a fully functioning city at this point. Tommy joins her for a cold one. And they kind of just discuss, I guess, the situation they're in with Ellie. She says that Tommy doesn't need to have Joel's burden. Like, obviously, the relationship with Joel and Ellie was one thing, but like I think she tries to highlight to Tommy, like, you don't need to look after Ellie. She's not your daughter. She wasn't Joel's daughter. Like, how long does this thing go on for? And if she's a pathological liar and she's clearly got vengeance and violence on her mind, I think she's trying to maybe give Tommy an out while he still can. Because if he commits to this, he's in as well, just like Joel was. And I think Gail can almost see Tommy's importance to the community as well. So again, being quite tactical.
There's a very philosophical conversation about the difference between someone who is lied and who is a liar. Like, Ellie is clearly a liar, and it's likely the only person she's been honest with since Riley died is Joel. And Gail just sees that, and so I think she's more warning Tommy. He's like, I know you feel responsible for you. She's basically your niece.
Yeah.
You can't, whatever she's going to do, you can't stop it.
Yeah.
I think Gail's already sees it. It's in her nature. Joel didn't make it this way.
Yeah. And we know
they
that
were walking side by side down that same path.
Yeah. And we know that right back from the first season, don't we, when they leave the quarantine zone with Tess and Joel punches that Federer agent to death, and you can see in Ellie's eyes the kind of the thirst she gets from like the violence of like, oh shit, like this is an option.
She was violent. She was quite violent when she was a trainee in Fedra, wasn't she?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's, how much is in her nurture? How much of it's the mushrooms, Richie? I know she's immune, but they could be playing with her brain at the same time. You can be immune to something and still suffer some consequences of it. So we shall see. But as Gail says, some people just can't be saved. So, yeah. Ellie's...
It's only like nature's only a little bit of it. Nature's...
A lot.
This is Ellie's nature.
Yeah, humans and human instinct. But yeah, Ellie's back in the garage preparing to go on a hunt. She's got all of her guns set out. She's definitely like she's like, you know what, fuck the council. I'm going on my own. Knock knock. Dina turns up at the door, as you can expect. It's all very hush hush. Ellie's plan. There's a really good, just again, Dina coming into it, kind of bringing that element of fun relationship to kind of a dark situation.
Yeah.
She makes fun of Ellie because she has a plan to go northwest. That's about it. And Dina calls her out on a lack of food, a lack of medical supplies. Again, Dina's had 3 months to think about all this, probably in great detail. Ellie's like, got up out of hospital. She's okay now. She's gotten the council. The council said no. She's still angry. She's like, you know what, fuck it, I'm going. And Dina's like, right, I've got your back. Don't worry. And she kind of goes through everything. Yeah, Ellie wouldn't last a month. It's kind of
nice to see the dynamics between them. Ellie's very much the impulsive, let's go do the thing. Dina's the more sat back, calculating, how do we do it?
Yeah, Ellie's definitely like the raw muscle in this relationship, and Dina's like the logical planner, the tactician, as you will. But yeah, she's got a plan, she's got a list, she knows, she's got a map, she knows the route, and again, paired together, this is probably the best opportunity to find it. And again, remember, Dina knows the names, Seattle, the location, what she's looking for as well. And they have to slip out, and she knows a guy. And who is it again? It's Seth once again. They go out, they meet Seth at the East Gate or the West Gate or something. Again, good to know Jackson has these little side pocket doors to escape to. They've got a horse, Shimmer. They've got all their stuff packed, ready to go. Seemingly Seth squirreled away all the supplies they needed. So this guy is like, yeah, he's totally down for revenge, justice for Joel. So much so he's willing to seemingly give all his kind of savings, his rations that he's squirreled away himself. Seth's definitely what are the guys who live in America, live in little bunkers and stuff? Preppers.
Oh,
Seth's absolutely a prepper. Even though he's already in the apocalypse, so he's kind of already too late for that.
I don't know if he was a prepper or it was just a case of he found out using whatever duty he was on, managed to get the supplies.
Yeah. Well, he knows the person on the gate, and we've got that. And Seth
I think he would have went with them.
He says so, doesn't he?
That's the impression I got. Yeah.
He says
he got injured.
If I didn't take, and again, Ellie just still being a dick to the guy. Like he says, like, oh, if I hadn't took a stray shot of friendly fire, and she's like, oh, shoot, it was friendly. It's like, dude, this guy has not only stood up for you in the council meeting, stood up for Joel, everything you want to happen. He's now giving you supplies. He trades a better rifle, so it helps you out on your journey. And you're still like, just having digs at it. Even to the point where when he opens the gate and he offers her the hand, she's still reluctant to offer the hand, but she does in the end, and there's that kind of mutual like nod of respect to each other. We kind of glossed over early on actually, but when they go and see Tommy kind of lashes out at Ellie, but he snaps back at her when they're talking about wanting justice for Joel. Hashtag justice for Joel. And he snaps back at her and says, like, he was my brother too. Like, I knew him as well. Like, it's not all about you in this series. Like, he's feeling the same pain, essentially. But he does say, like, you should go see his grave. And Ellie hits back and says, like, I'll go see it when we're heading out of town. And that brings us to the moment now where, they've left Jackson, they've snuck out in the night, but 10 miles south of town, we've got the graveyard as such. And it's interesting to think that why don't they bury them within the walls of Jackson? Is it a space thing? Is it they're worried they're going to come back as infected? Is it you want your dead away from the city in a post-apocalypse world?
They talked about it in the official podcast without actually giving an answer. Yeah. They give it like a few potential things, like, is it just because it's a nice location?
It's got a beautiful view of the countryside.
Maybe they don't want to associate Jackson with the dead being in the walls, just in case.
It's an interesting one because you do think like if
they're not exactly short in space, so
I just think if you lose someone, you're like, I'd like to go pay my respects for their birthday, their anniversary, whatever it might be. You've got to somehow arrange a 10-mile hike out of town to just go put some flowers down.
I feel 10 miles is a bit far. That's when you're going to have to probably take a couple of people that have to go on horseback.
Yeah, like how long
rather than just going
to walk? You're talking like there and back. A good couple of hours of the day, right?
Yeah.
In a wilderness that could have infected and stuff. So, yeah, certainly just some decisions, but obviously it lends well to our story. Ellie finds the headstone, Joel Miller, and she kind of just gets down. Dina gives her a space. Presumably Dina might have been already as well. We're not too sure. For whatever the procession and the actual funeral was. We didn't really find out, did we? If it was like if they burn the bodies, is the ashes? Is he actually buried there?
No idea.
They don't really let on to it. But either way,
I feel like if I'm running Jackson, everyone's getting cremated just in case.
Yeah, you don't want a Game of Thrones White Walker situation happening, do you? With the
just in case. Let's not take any risks.
The mushrooms just see it and use it. But I guess one of the touching moments we get in this moment, not only like the beautiful vistas that are kind of sunsetting beyond the I guess it's sunrise, right? That they must be there for.
Yeah, it'd be sunrise.
Ellie bends down. She leaves coffee beans at his grave because we know Joel loves. Damn, I love coffee. Yeah, very just a touching tribute. She kind of puts a hand to the ground as well at the same time, and just it's a nice little throwback to like, I guess just his character, their relationship of like all things said and done. Like, yeah, he just really liked coffee, liked his music. Again, quite a simple man, and I think it was quite indicative of their relationship. Of just needed that. It was quite a poignant moment in the show, I think. And then we kind of get a montage of the journey. We're on the road trip now, Richie. We've got Ellie and Dina. They're out. They're just killing time, talking. And for me, this is the one thing of the show that I was quite surprised at, is just how quickly the road trip just seemingly just went bang, bang, bang. And they've covered half of the US so quick. I thought we would have like lingered a little bit on like maybe another half an episode. You've got to imagine they encountered some problems along the way. Like, I know in the game, like, you have several instances happen between leaving Jackson and actually getting to the WLF in Seattle, and they're just kind of like, we're almost on the outskirts of Jackson. The girls talk
from the center of Wyoming to Seattle is about 4 days on a bicycle.
Right. So
I put the bicycle on Google Maps just to see like as an approximation for a horse.
Yeah, is there no horse option on Google Maps?
No, unfortunately not.
Not anymore. We see the seasons pass. The girls talk back and forth about a couple of things. Of course, Dina leading the conversation. She's just one of them. Everyone has a friend like that who just can talk forever. They talk about Ellie's first kill. Ellie doesn't want to. She says the first kill was too fucked up, but she tells about the second one, and then she kind of recounts the interaction her and Joel had from season 1. I forgot what the guy's name was, but it's like she shoots him in the back, doesn't she, when Joel tells her to hide in the hole it's just when the car gets hit, right, and it goes in the building, and they jump through a little side crack, and then Joel loops back around to get the guy, and another one runs in, I think.
Yeah, in Kansas City.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, don't shoot me, like, and then Joel tells Ellie to leave again. He kind of finishes the guy off. God, that seems forever ago now when all that happened. But that was a second one, of course. She doesn't want to talk about the first one because the first one, as we all know, was Riley, when they both got bit and she had to shoot her before the end. Interesting way, doesn't ask Dina about hers. I just think if you're having that kind of crazy level conversation, but who did you murder first? You'd think after Ellie told that story, the follow-up question would be, now your turn. Like, surely.
Yeah.
But
tell me about yours.
But she's so used to violence. She's just like, that's just a casual conversation.
It's like Dina mentions like feeling sorry for Ellie, and Ellie's just kind of almost confused. Like, she actually says, I shoot a guy and you feel sorry for me.
Yeah.
It's like, as if like, what was that meant to register something for me? It's like,
she's kind of numb to it all.
Yeah, she is. Like, her entire life has been about violence. Even when she was in federal school, they were teaching her to be violent. Yeah,
very true. Speaking of violence, we're then hit with a storm, which Dina predicted she saw coming off. The girls get in the tent. Again, don't know where they're getting a pop-up tent from. That still lasts to this day. But they get it out. They get in there. The girls talk. I kind of saw, personally, I thought like there was a kissy intimate scene coming up at the moment. I thought now it's like low light conditions, they're all alone, isolated, they're getting close and talking. They've had a couple of days, well, maybe months together at this point. The Dina reflects on kind of the kiss back during the dance. The joke about like already got back with Jesse since then. They have like the fun little back and forth about like rate my kiss, kind of like typical like teenager like banter. Like it's almost a surprise they end up just tickling each other next, and then going into it. But Dina explains that she wasn't that high. Ellie gives her shit by rating it 6 out of 10, just mocking her essentially. And you can almost sense like every time Dina rolls over to go to sleep, it's like we've all been there, right? Where you're all in you're in a tent with your mates and just like. No, everyone just talks. You're like, right, it's time to go to sleep, even when the lights go off, and then everyone just keeps talking. It's like typical tent etiquette.
I feel there was something a bit more from Dina in there. Why she seemed like she didn't want to go to sleep. I think she was wanting Ellie to make a move.
Yeah, but again, it just shows you how naive Ellie is to all this at the same time. But so we know that she's gone back to Jesse a couple of times, and they're giving each other shit about that. So, and again, a lot of months have passed between. I guess that you've put in the comments quite astutely. I guess if Joel's dead, so I remember Dina had a great relationship with Joel as well, and Ellie's in the hospital. Dina's probably gone to the next best thing, which is probably Jesse for comfort and warmth, and then they just kind of got back together. And you can totally see he's like a 19-year-old when your world's falling apart. Even if you're not with Jesse, she always admits that he's a great guy. And
she has nothing against him. She seems to she probably loves them still, but she kind of alludes to something that's not right with them. It's just for whatever reason, it's not working. She doesn't know whether it's him or her, but she knows it's not right.
Absolutely. The girls get back on the road. We find the previous scene, which was with the Seraphites, and they've come across them. The dead, the little wagons busted up on the side. There's bodies everywhere. Different bullets riddled across them all. Ellie asks if this could be Abby's crew who've done this on the way back. Again, in Ellie's mind, you can already tell she's like, all these WLF, they're all like just way aggressively violent and they'll kill anyone and anything. Dina throws up again for the first time.
No, this is the first time.
This is the first time, getting my episodes mixed up and the games mixed up now. Dina throws up because of the smell or what she's witnessed, which in the game it's a horse. I think they find Tommy's horse, and that's what triggers her to be sick. We find like the little girl who had the hammer from the earlier scene, the dad. They're all basically dead in the forest, and this is the one thing for me. It was kind of like I was trying to piece in my head like how far their journeys have came at this point. I'm like, are the Seraphites heading right out to Washington? Is Ellie like? It's
hard to know how far away from Seattle this scene is. Is this like a day out? Is it a week out?
Yeah,
we don't know, and we don't really have any context. I think it's probably closer to Seattle than it is to Jackson. It's probably not that far out because I feel like they just escaped Seattle.
Yeah,
that band of Seraphites.
And they've been hunted down.
At least that's my headcanon.
Yeah, and this is where I guess it was quite jarring for me as someone who's played the game so much. Of like, I expected so much more time to be spent leading up to Seattle, and then all of a sudden, Ellie and Dina are already interacting with the Seraphites. In my mind, that's like 25 hours into the game. So the fact that we're only on episode 3 and we're already like seeing the two different groups of people interact was like, I guess we're at this stage very, very quickly. But then, we find out they pretty much reached Seattle. They see the road sign that says Seattle 9 miles. It's like, oh shit, we literally are here already. And I guess in the game, that's just a big open world exploration part. So you can see from a TV show,
it's not actually that long of a section, to be honest, when you think about it. Because then you have the whole section of where you're kind of breaking into Seattle, but there's not really a huge amount of game there in terms of story. It's still very much tutorial, isn't it?
Yeah. We get a good more bit of banter back and forth between Dina and Ellie, kind of talking about reaching Seattle. They say that typical quote, which I'm sure happens in lots of movies, where it's like, it's quiet. Too quiet.
Too quiet.
And Ellie, of course, references Joel's favourite movies, Curtis and Viper. Ellie says something near the end, doesn't she, where she's like, there won't be any more wolves left or something. And she's like, Curtis and Viper? And it's like, no, that's just me. I was trying to sound like a badass. It was like, you don't need to say stuff like that, sound like a badass. Again, just that little like blossoming relationship of like Dina's got her back regardless. And we kind of see the ruined road ahead. We see how close we are. They have a little bit of a conversation back and forth about Dina asking about, I thought all the cities were bombed, so I guess Seattle doesn't look as bad as maybe she was expecting. We know from the previous quarantine zones that like some places get absolutely messed up, and seemingly Seattle isn't too damaged from Dina's interpretation. The roads, the streets, the skyscrapers all seem okay. You can see the Space Needle off in the background.
Yeah, I suppose it makes sense. Some cities might not have been bombed. Maybe Seattle, the outbreak happened a bit later.
Yep. And,
so the opportunity to bomb it wasn't there.
Yeah. And then we're kind of like there's the next journey. It's ahead, the Space Needle. And it kind of cuts to Manny, who we've not seen since the second episode. Is on the lookout watch. He's got his walkie-talkie. They're asking about moving the team up, moving them in. He has to look through the walkie-talkies. He's watching. I think he calls it zones. He's like, he's on zone 2 and 3, and they ask him to check in on 4 and 5 or something. Has to look through the binoculars, says, we're all okay. And then you kind of see the army move out.
Yeah, this is one where I think Ellie's got the impression maybe it's just a small group of just a ragtag bunch of people like former Fireflies.
Yeah.
She's not expecting to go against a well-oiled army that actually has tanks and shit.
Yeah. It's one thing, isn't it, to go hunt a couple of people who killed
Yeah.
Joel, and it's another thing to get there and learn that they've got fully militarized setup ready to go, and the scale of it is quite scary. We find out in next week's episode that actually it's very similar in terms of like what they're actually doing, and the scale of what they're attempting to do is could kind of get away from them, beyond them. But yeah, that brings us to an end of the episode. I think, as you said, it was probably the most slow burning episode of the whole show to date. And in another version, I'd imagine the battle would have been one episode, and stuff leading up to Joel's death would have been another episode, and then maybe this sandwiched in between. But I think they've cut it in an interesting way to kind of give, I guess, as an audience, give us room to breathe this week.
Yeah, it's giving you room to breathe from the action by focusing on the relationships of the characters. I think, especially with Ellie and Dina's relationship, I think develops quite a bit throughout this episode, or at least that you can see the seeds being planted there.
Yeah. Anything else at the end there?
Not really. I think it is just that it's very much a setup episode, right? So we've dealt with Jackson. We've dealt with effectively the prologue. Ellie's got impetus to why she's going on this journey. Now we end up in Seattle, where that's where she's going, and now we start whatever the story's going to be in earnest.
Yeah, I agree. And then we end. So all in all, solid episode. I think it kind of wrapping up there, it does go back to our point at the start of the show of saying like this very much was an episode one. Like from this stage, we know where everyone's at. We know what their intentions are. We know what the episodes coming ahead are going to lead to. Are you surprised they didn't give us any time with Abby and her crew? Like, we've seen nothing about their journey back to Seattle.
No, I feel like I don't think there's much to tell from Abby just yet. I feel like Abby just went back to her normal life before she found out where Joel was.
Yeah.
Supposedly. I think it is right to focus this episode on Ellie, to focus on her grief and her anger and what she's planning to do.
Yeah.
The fact that she's planning to basically leave the community that's given her safety in a home for the first time in her entire life, where she actually feels like she's a place where she feels welcome.
Mm-hmm.
She's chosen to abandon that.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. Richie, we end every show of the ClickerCast with analysing the performance, the moment, and the best game adaptation of the week. Who's your performance on this week?
I don't know, to be honest. I think this is a hard one because there's a lot of characters, but there's
not many moments.
I do think there's not many big moments, and I don't think there's any outstanding. But it is probably going to be Bella Ramsey again.
Yep,
because I think she is such a phenomenal actress, and she's the one who seems to have the most character. Mm-hmm. Has the most emotional range in this episode.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. I think for me, the bits Bella Ramsey does around waking up in hospital and that like guttural scream of like, not only have you've had to act the actual scene out with Pedro Pascal and give the emotion she gave last week, but then on a totally different shooting day, presumably the director's like, right, all that energy and passion and pain that you gave us. Again, we don't know the shooting schedule. It could have been months ago at this point when they've shot the show. Focus that on, wake up in a hospital bed, and now give me your reaction to seeing it again. And then for her to then just do that while everyone's trying to pin her down and it's okay, Ellie, it's okay. Is
we see
impressive.
Her like you see her terrified. We see her quite passive. See her kind of being very like deadpan in the council while trying to emote. We see her trying to act as if she's a character who's then lying, and then we see the emotional breakdown with the jacket scene.
Yeah,
and then we see a kind of confusion with her and Dina when in the tent, like, well, what's going on here? Like, I think she's the only one other than maybe Dina who has any real depth to them this episode.
Yeah.
Everyone else, I feel like, is very much there for
Yeah.
Ellie as a character to play off.
Yeah, I agree. And I think especially the scene with the jacket in the room, like to tell, I don't, sometimes you've just got to applaud like how actors and actresses do it, but to read a script and then go into a room and be told like, just show that emotion. You can't use any words. You need to show that emotion. You're going to hug a jacket. You're going to cry on cue. Take that emotion in silence, and then have to break that emotion because Dina's interrupted you and kind of rub you, and then go into pretending to be surprised and pulling yourself back together. But it's like, remember, like this is all just like scripted, brought to life by another human being, like on set. And I think it's just so impressive, like how she's able to convey that.
It's not just being able to cry on cue; it's being able to cry in a way that's convincing.
Yeah.
For how that character would react in that moment.
Yeah. And you don't question it one bit. And I think, again, Bella Ramsey's like, what, 21, 22 in real life? Like, that's some phenomenal performances from someone who's not had a 20, 30-year career of doing this kind of drama. So, yeah, performance of the week, definitely Bella Ramsey for me. Moment of the week, I don't think there's any particular standout moment per se. I'd say there's a lot of touching moments that are like really good tributes to Joel. Anything stand out for you?
I keep going back to the jacket scene.
Yeah.
Because
or the beans.
I don't know the beans. Yeah, there's kind of the touching tributes to like the send off to the character.
Yeah, I think the collective moments for Joel. I think, like I said, Tommy saying send Sarah, like give your love to Sarah. The beans, the jacket. It's all just kind of like consolidating as an audience how we feel. I think
what we haven't touched on is the intro's changed.
Yeah, you're completely right.
The silhouette of Joel is now gone. It's just Ellie.
Yeah, it's little mushroom Ellie just left there at the end. I'll be interested to see in the weeks to come if they add a second one back in for Dina.
It'd be interesting.
It's like because like they have a relationship now, right? And no, it's not obviously father-daughter, but they're both on this journey to kill Abby together.
I actually don't know. I don't think it's then episode 4, but it could see it coming back for episode 5 after.
To show that
I feel
Ellie's
like
still not alone.
It's like, so she's no longer alone.
Yeah.
Where at this point she probably does feel very alone. I know she's got Tommy, but
yeah, it's not quite Joel, though, is it?
It's not. Yeah.
And then finally, we've got the best game adaptation of the week. So the best moment that showed up in the games that also showed up in the show.
Well, I think I think this episode was almost entirely a departure from the games, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Nothing in this episode really plays out the same way in the games. So I'd probably go for the jacket scene because it's probably the only moment that actually is.
Yeah, I think walking around the house, because in the game you get obviously a lot more autonomy of that, and you can go room to room and exploit your own leisure and find little trinkets. And I think in the game Ellie can pick up like the little wooden horse that he's crafted. She can look around, you find the watch and everything. But I think just browsing around Joel's house was probably the only. Well, obviously we're not going to give it Jackson and everything because we've seen those in previous episodes. But I don't think there's anything out and out 1-for-1 match in the game. So in the game they can't do this every week.
No, I think this episode is a necessary departure from the games because what was amazing in episode 2 now needs to be resolved in this episode. And the departure from the games in episode 2 was largely in the games it's focused on Ellie and Joel and Abby. But in the show it focused on Jackson as well. So now you need to have resolved Jackson somehow before Ellie leaves.
You certainly do. And speaking of resolving things, Richie, that brings us to an end for this week's episode of the ClickerCast. Don't forget, everyone, run along to the comments. Stalk us on social media at GamerGuild TV. Clicker that notification bell and blow to yourself on all of our other amazing content. But we'll be back next week. Actually, I say next time next week. This is a double bill episode, so if you are listening to this live in the moment, we'll be back after a short intermission. But for everyone listening along after the fact on YouTube or on our podcast services, then we'll see you next time. But above all else, Richie, endure and survive. Goodbye.
Bye.